going to stand for Babylon or stand for Jerusalem?
That's a good point. It boils down to worship. And I didn't really tie all that to because that food was already dedicated and sacrificed to his idols.
And you see it roll right into, don't want to jump ahead of the lesson in chapter 3, when they bowing down to the golden image. It's over worship. The whole thing is over worship. We got confused by the food in chapter 1, the Daniel diet. We got books on that. Secondary to the big issue. So worship, Jerusalem versus Bethel.
But it's not the faithfulness.
Faithfulness. That God could have given them wood chips to eat. They would have to been faithful to that. Whatever God gave them, they say, I'm sticking with that.
Yes, thank you, Jesus.
And then, in order for them to have gotten to that point, like I said, they were faithful all along, but they were just, they were making baby steps. God allowed them to make baby steps along the way until He was ready for them to make that big leap. So for us today, that lets us know that, we have to keep moving along and serving God. And I always equate it with, the military. We have to purpose in our mind that we could be actively serve God. We have to make a decision to serve Him daily. And so we can't, there is no such thing as any of God's soldiers being on the sideline.
So that brings us to what everything has been said. How will we fare on Thursday's lesson, the final exam? It says, read Daniel 1:17-21. What is the key to success of the 4 meetings?
I have here trust. I summed it all up in some words here. I have the key to this success was they trusted God, it was faithful, it was obedient, and it was full of wisdom and knowledge from God. It wasn't anything that they did on their own. All this was from God, but what they did, they trusted Him, and they had to have faith. And after they trusted and had faith, then they had to be obedient, and they were obedient. They were obedient. So that was the success they got from all of that.
Amen.
What stood out for me was 19, and the king communed with them, and among them all was found none. Like the 4. Therefore stood they before the king. So, they really, really did stand out amongst all those people.
And then even
like what Sister Reed said, God, He was a total, He was a total package, or if that's what you want to say, but he was the total behind everything that they received because of their faithfulness to Him. God was able to do above all that, we could ever think of acts He was able to do for them.
So
God was their success, the reason for their success.
And then also it was, I won't say easier because I don't know, but it wasn't, it was okay. I don't know what to use the word okay. I'll just use easier for lack of a better word. It was easy for them to go in and learn, the counterfeit knowledge because they knew the truth.
Okay.
So when they were being taught something that was against God, they could, God had given them the spirit of discernment, so they could pick it up. This is not from God because they knew God. They knew truth. They knew what the real deal was. So when they saw the false, they could identify it.
Amen. So God was showing his mighty hand. That He was still in control of the situation, in spite of the fact that they were in captivity. He was still showing and proving His mighty hand because ultimately, Daniel and the 3 Hebrew boys were allowed to evangelize Nebuchadnezzar. Right?
That's what I was going to say.
Right.
Yeah.
So God's hand was still strong on their life because it proved that not Nebuchadnezzar, not the false gods that they worshiped, but the true God was in control. Because he didn't let Nebuchadnezzar just totally wipe them out. He even told them, "These are my children, and I have given you the power over them for a season." And they chose not to partake of the king's table, but to be afflicted and used by the Lord to make a mighty to make his name known in the earth, you know, so the Lord, he used them because of their willingness.
Daniel uses a very interesting word for God. A lot of other writers uses Yahweh or different names for God, Jehovah Jireh and different names. But Daniel specifically uses Jehovah during the whole book, meaning the God of the universe.
Amen.
Amen.
Because remember, Babylon has a pantheon of gods.
Science.
Right, and they got a bunch of gods, including Nebuchadnezzar. So when Daniel is talking about God, he's saying, no, I know the God of gods.
God of all.
Yeah, you got a bunch of gods, but the God I know, he's above all of them. So he uses a very specific word when he's describing God, the God of gods.
That's true.
So was it Nebuchadnezzar that God, they end up turning to God? Was it him? Was it Nebuchadnezzar?
Yes.
In chapter 4, right? So
Yeah.
was it because of Daniel's malfaithfulness, or could you say that had a lot to do with it? Malfaithfulness to God?
Pretty sure. I count on it.
Because when he's making his confession, his testimony, he says, I extol the God of Daniel. You know, he mentions Daniel's God.
So they had a lot to do with
the God that Daniel been talking about and demonstrating, yeah, that one.
That's the real.
Yeah, that's the real one.
That might be some of our experience to stand in the king's court to give that testimony.
That I was gonna say that, you know, for us today, if the Lord allows us and blesses us to be in the presence of higher officials, you know, we should recognize that as an opportunity from God to be a witness, not to be in there to massage our own ego, to promote ourselves.
That's right.
But you got to be vigilant. And as humans, it's easy. The human weakness coming in fact, like let's say, for instance, if you were allowed for some people to meet the Pope. And believe it or not, if some Adventists meet the Pope, they're going to be bowing down. They're going to be in awe because, you know, the devil has all those trinkets there, but you got to remember you're there for a purpose. He has a soul. Even for the President of the United States,
Right.
if you're allowed to come into, be in his presence, no matter what you think of him politically, he has a soul. So then even on your job, the difficult people that the Lord allows us to come in contact with every day, it's for a reason. They have a soul, so we've got to be vigilant at all times.
Right.
And it's so easy to come off your point and just want to say, I'm gonna take care of this situation myself.
Right.
But that's not your job. that's not your job. We have to, because I'm sure Daniel and the 3 Hebrew boys and other people in the Bible, they encountered that. But we have to, it's moment by moment. And it's not easy.
It's an ongoing job. It's ongoing.
That's what I was gonna say, these jobs can be Babylon when you go out.
With Nebuchadnezzar.
Like the pastor said, that we see, you know, primarily that this lesson is about God and how, you know, I had a conversation with my cousin at the shop, and he was saying that God, I told him that God doesn't change. And just so happened we was talking about pork and eating unclean foods. And he said, well, what about in the Bible when the man prayed and asked for God to extend his life and God changed his mind? And I was like, no, God didn't change his mind, because him asking for an extension on his life was not a surprise to God. Because God knows what? The end from the beginning and the beginning from the end. He knows all these things. So what was really going on was that God was waiting for this man to acknowledge something, like Kenny brought out, before he could bless him. That's what really happened on. So God does not change. That didn't catch him by surprise. And God is all knowing. He didn't change his mind. He waits for us to change what? Our mind. And, you know, and in particular, it is important, like Pastor said, the food and the Daniel diet is a secondary thing, but it's important because Adam and Eve fell on the point of what? Food, basically. They fell on the point surrounding food. So food, the secondary system is important. And it brings me to some things that were highlighted by my cousin. We was discussing the lesson this week, and he was saying that, how did he put it? He was saying that meat shouldn't, the meat has not been stricken from our diet as we enter into the last day. And most Adventists believe that we should be off meat. And I was just wondering, how did the class feel about that? Because it would, I didn't have an answer for it.
I would go with the Daniel story. I mean, when you are faithful and dedicated to God, and then you free yourself of those meats, you could do some marvelous things if you back away from that meat. Your mind is so sharp. And I was a vegetarian for like 4 or 5 years, and I never got sick during that time. I never gained a pound during that time. Never caught nothing, and I was sharp. And I know the difference personally from being a vegetarian. It's worth it.
Okay.
I agree.
It's, God did allow, he made a distinction between the clean and the unclean. So he, in a sense, is right that there are clean meats that people can eat. But from a health perspective, and even science has shown now that because the meat supply is so tainted and they're putting so many hormones in the animals, the decisions that we make, we have a choice between this and that. Even though you're allowed to eat, like say, you can eat the clean meat, but that is a possibility. That meat may be tainted with all kinds of hormones and chemicals. Your better choice is going to be the vegetables. Even though granted that they'll come back at you and say, but the vegetable soil is tainted too. Yes, that's true. Everything in this world is tainted, but you're looking for the best choice.
You were vegetarian.
This is where Ellen White usually gets thrown under the bus because somebody stands up and said, Ellen White said, don't eat meat. and then we have a conflict. She didn't actually say it in that context. She said exactly what the sister said. God allowed meat in the Bible. Ellen White can't change that. What Spirit of Prophecy talks about and warns about is the chemicals in the body, in the meats, for doing all that the sister pointed out. So it's not the meat, but the chemicals in it. And Sister White actually said, if you raise your own chicken somewhere and you were feeding it healthy grain like they do in the old days, then that chicken would be perfectly healthy to eat. Ellen White says so. But she's saying, watch out for the ones bought in the stores that's pumped with steroids, because that goes in your body and accelerates your life. You die quicker from human hormones. And that's been scientifically proven. So be careful with Ellen White said don't eat meat. She didn't say that. She put it in the context of don't eat the meats tainted with chemicals, which is everywhere. So we got to parse that hair between what God allowed and saying Ellen White said. She didn't say that. But her counsel is don't eat the tainted meat because it will mess with your head, basically.
I heard that if you eat meat, then it has to be cooked thoroughly, because so it won't be no blood in it. Because God said you should eat anything with blood. You should eat any blood. Because blood is life.
That's if it's kosher to begin with. It has to be, but that's a different thing. You can't cook out the chemicals.
Right.
You can, the blood you can drain out, but this thing got raised on chemicals. You can't cook that out.
It's already in the flesh. It's in the tissues.
You can't cook out the human growth hormone.
Well, I think what I was trying to say is that if you cook anything that got blood, then make sure you cook it.
Right. Take the blood.
Yeah,
There ain't no blood left in it.
You had a point?
No, it was just,
I can come back to you. Another thing was brought out was that people wanted to go back to God's original diet. God's original diet was fruits, nuts, and grain. So if you go back to God's original diet, should one cut out vegetables? That's another discussion we had that I didn't have an answer for, and real fast before we began the lesson. How could one respond to that?
So, basically, with today's time, they're saying that vegetables have stuff to help prevent, cancers, different things. So I don't think it's nothing wrong. You're looking at it from a health standpoint. Because some of these leafy vegetables prevent colon cancer
Right.
and stuff. So I look at it like that. And you can do that.
How about looking at it from the lessons point of view? That remember we're talking about trusting God.
Yeah.
How about putting diet in that category? How about if God said so? How about if we trust it? You know, that's what the lesson is about, trusting God even in Babylon. If we go back to the original diet, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't look the part for today's, stomach. So it's not gonna look right. Somebody's gonna call you crazy. You can't eat just that. But didn't God give the human being that? You mean God didn't know what was good for our body? God gave us a diet that he didn't think would sustain us? Why don't we trust that? And see what happened. God gave that diet. It's not an Ellen White original. God gave that diet to the human family. Why don't we just trust it?
Let me ask you a question.
That makes sense.
From the beginning, God gave that diet. That was before the flood. He gave you a different diet after the flood, right?
He gave a different diet after the flood because the vegetation was underwater. And in that diet he gave in the flood, that's where he distinguished between clean and unclean. One of the great fallacies in the Bible is that all the animals got on 2 by 2. That's not true. The unclean animals got on 2 by 2, but the clean animals got on by 7s for the point of eating them. But God allows, and that's where he made the difference between clean and unclean, but God did allow it for the flood.
Which means that he gave you this diet. He didn't say go back to the original diet. So he gave you this diet knowing that the clean food that he gave you to eat wouldn't harm your body if you ate it. Which also, I think that you can accept his original diet, but also he allowed you to go to this diet after the flood, which didn't do no harm to your body. It said in the beginning that the harm comes from what you eat in your diet, which harms your body, like the chemicals and stuff were caused by man.
Well, first we'd have to agree that it doesn't harm your body. I don't agree with that because if you look at the lifespan before and after the flood, it's a 400-year difference. The average lifespan before meat was 836 years. After meat is 430 years. So man loses 400 years of lifespan after meat is introduced. I think that's a lot of harm.
Even today, a lot of people are dying at early ages because, a lot of meat eating. They can come down with the diabetes and the heart failure. That's like the 2 number 1 disorders right now.
Every medical professional will tell you most of the diseases that we're experiencing because of meat in the diet. That's science. It's not an inventor's thing.
Right.
I took the man to Walmart one time, Mr. Knight, and he loved chicken. And his favorite chicken is put out by this company called Purdue chicken. And yeah, and he don't see that well, but I could see it. But in that chicken, all around that chicken, on the chicken had green, looked like green pockets on paws. And I looked at every package in there, the big and the small package, all of it had the same thing. Now, if you fry it up, bite it up and fry it, you may not be able to see it. But then you eating something that's contaminated that could possibly kill you or make you definitely sick. So, that's why, we need to get off of meat.
Nobody in this room would say, after I leave here, I'm going home to drink vodka and snort cocaine. Nobody would say that.
No.
Why not? Because, vodka and cocaine damages your body. So if there's something that meat, no matter how much you like it, that damages your body, and you know that is the same thing as cocaine and vodka. The things in that chicken, though we like it fried, is damaging your body, just like cocaine and vodka. But nobody's going home saying, I'm gonna drink some cocaine and I'll have some cocaine and drink vodka for Saturday lunch. Why not? Because it damages your body and you know it.
And I've been off of meat for about 3 months and I feel a whole lot better. I ain't had no meat.
So I guess we should look at it in the context of if it's taking years off your life and your mental awareness as well, then you shouldn't have it. Yeah, I don't care if it's water from a particular cup, it doesn't have to be meat. If a certain type of water is killing you and stops you from thinking clearly, then don't drink that type of water. So it's not meat. If anything put in your body that affects you adversely, then it shouldn't be put in there. So let's not get caught up on meat. It could be a drink that does that.
But you know, and I had another question. I think that for some reason, why don't the Adventists think that vegetables were given to the original God? With fruits, nuts, and grains.
It's not in there.
It basically says plants without a woody stem, plants other than trees, basically, or other than bushes that have woody stems that produce seeds you are to eat. So that's basically saying nothing, right? But nuts and grains, because of grass is not a woody stem, and of course, nuts, the tree bears the seed. That's nuts. But it's saying grains, like you said, Sister Ross, I think. It's speaking towards grains, which doesn't have a woody stem, but it's a plant that produces seeds. Also, vegetables are plants that produce seeds without a woody stem. So why isn't that included with the grains?
That's a God's perspective. I mean, when God created us, I understand, because vegetable is not defined in where you're saying it. It comes later on.
No, I'm saying, why is it, what I'm saying is, why couldn't that be a definition of a plant that bears seed?
So I don't know.
You see what I'm saying? Because if you plant some collard greens and let them go to seed, they will produce a seed, even though it doesn't have a woody stem.
That's probably a biologist or whoever is into plants.
I mean, it's just, to me, it's the same thing as a grain. A grain is a plant without a woody stem that produces a seed. A collard green is a plant without a woody stem that produces a seed, so you can plant collard greens next year. You see what I'm saying? So why Adventists say that vegetables aren't a part of the original diet, but said it came after meat eating was introduced. But I mean, that's just me. And another thing, I think that herbs were introduced, or like I think it's the ESV version of the Bible says that the food, wild food, was added to the diet, like herbs and medicinal plants with medicinal properties, like roots, stems, and herbs that we use to supplement our diets and to give us medicinal help when we are sick. I think that was added to the diet to kind of compensate for what meat would do to us. But I think vegetables were a part of the original diet. That's just me thinking that, because I don't see the difference between a non-woody stem plant that produces a seed. I don't see a difference between a collard green and a grain, because they both produce seeds.
With Genesis 2:5,
Eventually.
I don't know if this will help you or not. And every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. I mean, every plant.
See, right after God gives us our diet in 129, he gives the birds, the wild plants, that he also gives us once meat was introduced, the wild herbs, basically. because it says, thou shalt eat the herb of the field. But in Genesis 1:30, he gave the herb of the field as a diet for birds. So I think that was given to us, the herbs of the field was given to us to kind of help us kind of mitigate the effects of meat. Go ahead.
129 said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed, to you it shall be meat.
So that was before the flood.
Right, that's the original time. And I think that when it says herb bearing seed, it's not referring to grains, but referring to grains in green, leafy green. But I don't know, because I'm not.
It just says every, yeah.
But anyway, with that, we'll bring this lesson discussion to a closing. Most notably for our lesson, we have to understand that God is indeed sovereign. And like I said earlier, he is able through trial or triumph to have mercy on us when we are faithful to him, and to lead, guide, and protect us through whatever we are going through. Like I said earlier, I was led away captive to the foreign land of ingratitude, and I thank the Lord for breaking that chain, breaking that band, and now I am free. I don't have to be ungrateful. I know the Lord has blessed me, and he has kept me, and he has continued to provide for me. So I'd like to praise the Lord and thank him for that. So may God bless you all, and may heaven smile.
Amen.
Thank you, Larry. We have the lesson study. I also want to thank, Sister Roslyn for playing the music and for Brother Reed for praying for us. And we're going to close out. Sister Rosemary collect the offering before, after the divine hour. Even though Sister Tucker's not here, I would still like to meet with Brother Allen and Sister Rebecca right after we meet the divine hour right over here for a few minutes.
Okay.
And it won't be for long. Thank you very much and have a happy Sabbath. Okay. Okay, but I don't know when that's. All right.
He has a pass.
Huh?
He has a pass.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning again, saints. Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
Interesting Sabbath school lesson.
Amen.
The other made a critical point. The last lesson, it was coming out of captivity. This lesson is going into captivity. I think they did it in such a reverse order. We were rejoicing the last one, we're free. Now we're back. What happened? Just want to add one thing. I agree with what the other was saying. I just want to add one thing that comes out in the warnings leading up to the lesson, leading up to the story. The other brought out that there were two main issues that God always seems to respond to. You remember what he said? Two critical issues?
Child sacrifice and homosexuality.
Amen. Amen. I'm going to add one more. The Sabbath. It's a big part of the captivity. And Jeremiah reminds us of that. So there are a couple of issues I want to leave you with. We have child sacrifices going on. Again, the Pope decided to revamp this idol of Moloch I think I'm gonna print it out and maybe post it up on the board, and so you can see this thing, that this thing is coming back, child sacrifices. So let's keep that in mind. And the other one was homosexuality. And that's a big deal. Even, there's a group within the Adventist culture called gay Adventists, making a push to really change the way we do things and the way we look at that particular issue. So that's, it started out west and is heading east rather quickly. And even challenging some local pastors to seek lawyers, because we know the law of the land says that we have to marry homosexuals. And pastors are saying, no, I'd rather go with God. And of course, that puts the local pastor in trouble with the law. So that's something we all have to face, we will face, because homosexuals will come in and sit down and be part of our fellowship. And one day they may say, I want to be baptized. Then we have a decision to make. Of course, if your response is no, the first inclination is to call somebody of authority and force the issue. So those things are real issues today. How we're treating our children, homosexuality, of course the Sabbath. That's the other big issue that comes out in the Daniel story. And we see at the end of the story when Nehemiah and Ezra are trying to reinstitute the Sabbath, where Nehemiah makes his famous line, you're going to make me come off this wall to lay hands on you. And he said that because people were violating the Sabbath, selling fish and other wares on the Sabbath. So 3 things that we want to be mindful of. Children, youth issues. Just because it doesn't read the same, that we're making our children go through the fire, we have to think spiritually. Our children are in jeopardy. Our health is in jeopardy. And of course, Sabbath keeping, because the Sunday law is upon us. Just a word of CNN to everybody. When you look on CNN and you're watching Egypt, Iran, Iraq, and you listen to the political pundits, it's about oil, it's about their way of life, it's about our way of life versus their way of life. When you listen to the political pundits, they're not going to tell you the real story, but you actually know it. They have to talk that way because they can't tell you what the real story is, but you know the real story. The real story is it's a religious war. You go to these places that we're labeling terrorists, in the Middle East, you see something astonishing. And I suggest to you, this is a real story behind the CNN, behind the Fox News broadcast. If you go to some place like, say, Istanbul, Turkey, it's a Muslim country, it's a Muslim city. And you go on, say, on a Friday, it's going to be business as usual, just like any major city on a Friday. That's a problem. Because they say Friday is Islam's Sabbath. And it's supposed to be shut down like we would shut everything down if we were in control. But everything is busy and jumping on a Friday on Islam's Sabbath. Why is that? Because of the influence of Western cultures and the influence of the papacy. They don't care about Friday, they don't care about Saturday. But if you go to Istanbul, Turkey on a Sunday, guess what? Everything is shut down. Everything is closed, just like in Lynchburg. How is that possible? On their Sabbath, business is jumping, clubs open, banks open, but on Sunday, it's closed. That's the issue. That's the behind-the-scenes issue. Islam is looking out their window and they're seeing their religious beliefs being thrown under the bus. That's the issue. It's a religious war. But CNN will tell you something different. So Islam is pushing back. They want their Sabbath back, just like we push back against Sunday. We're going to fight for Sabbath. They're fighting for Friday. So when we see things and it's interesting, the experts, they roll out there to talk about Middle East mindsets and Middle East culture is always a white boy. Have you noticed that? There are 1 billion Muslims, but they can't seem to find one to interview on CNN. It's a white guy who studied Islam at the University of Nebraska. They got a white guy telling you how Muslims think. Can't find one Muslim to ask them. So don't get caught up, because what happens is we end up hating people listening to the news. Well, they're that way, they're terrorists. And once we label people, dehumanize people, it prevents us from doing our job to evangelize to those same people. After CNN and Fox News finishes with you, who wants to evangelize to an Iranian? They're terrorists. So be careful. This stuff has implications for us. Conquer and divide. That's what the devil wants to do. So be careful of your favorite news source. You will end up hating people before the half hour is over. We're not even supposed to be evangelizing to Mexicans. Remember them? Fox News says they're all rapists and murderers coming over here to take something from us. So be careful. We have the responsibility to witness to everybody. And Daniel's story tells us that. Because I had to imagine, Sister Clark, some Hebrew went in there fussing about the Babylonians. Some Hebrew went in there talking about how bad the Babylonians are and why they should all be wiped out. But the king of the Babylonians gives a testimony in chapter 4. I know the God of heaven exists. And that's who I'm worshiping from now on. So next time you see a Mexican, next time you see a Muslim, an Iranian, a Saudi Arabian, don't let Fox News carry your attitude. Remember, you're there to worship and to serve God. Evangelize to everybody, including the Iranians. They matter too. They need salvation as well. I think our pianist is downstairs. Piano. I'm not sure if it's downstairs or next door. Anybody see Brother Peterson downstairs? He's downstairs. He's downstairs. He's rehearsing with your wife, I imagine? Okay. Thanks, Sister Reeves is leading out in song service for us today. Patricia is in Antigua. She won't be flying back until Monday. She buried her grandmother Thursday. And my wife is doing some interesting mourning. I talked to her last night. I said, somebody asked, I said, Sister Culpepper, who called me last night, she won't be here as well. She's in Maryland, dealing with a situation with her grandson, Brandon. So she called to let me know that she will not be here for intercessory prayer. Sister Tucker is in Richmond. Her son, Telly, he played for our wedding. I love Telly. He's experiencing some health issues in Richmond, so the Tuckers are there. And Patricia is in Antigua, as I said, and someone asked me, Sister Culpepper asked me last night, how's your wife doing? Went down there and buried her grandmother. And my response was this. I said, my wife is down there doing some strange mourning because she keeps sending me pictures of her on the beach. I'm not sure what kind of mourning. She's down here. But she'll be back tomorrow. The funeral was Thursday. I guess that's behind us now. The beach is still there. That's right. I got 3 days for the beach, so she's doing all right. She'll be back with us Wednesday night. So let's pray for those who are not here. I appreciate that folks are calling and letting me know, hey, Pastor, I won't be in church this Sabbath, but here's the situation. Pray for us. So I appreciate the call from Sister Culpepper last night, and certainly keeping me informed about the Tuckers. We love Telly. We'd like him to be playing over here, but he's committed to Lynchburg, the Lynchburg Church, but we certainly have him over here. So we want to pray for his health and his speedy recovery. Any questions, comments before we transition to Divine Hour? All right. Ariel, I'm still looking for your help, sweetie, whatever you can help me out to organize a youth day. Need some thoughts from you. There's nothing like a bunch of old folks organizing a youth day. So we want to hear some ideas from our two representatives of having a youth day. Let me know if you want a speaker or how you want the youth day to be crafted, and we sit down and put it before the board and put it together. Amen. Could I have, let's see, Sister Wilson, would you come up, please, and lead us out in your favorite hymn, whatever that may be, while the pianist makes his way upstairs. And Brother Reeves, I see you in the back. Nothing I don't like more than, oh, there it is. You're relieved, my sister, amen. Mr. Wilson just let out a big amen clap.
was good.
All right, folks, so we transition to divine worship. Thank you, Sister Wilson. That's sort of Terry spirit in here. Praise the Lord. Just before you leave, we just close out this segment with prayer. Brother Harold, as long as you're back there, Brother Deacon, would you pray for us before you go, my brother, please?
Let us pray.
Let's give our Brother Harold our attention as we close out this segment. Thank you.
Kind of, once again, we thank you for waking us up this morning. Many lay down last night, didn't wake up this morning. Many lay down last night and woke up sick and ill. We thank you for bringing us to your house of worship today. Ask and pray that as we assemble ourselves in your house, that we will come together and be willing to work together for good with you, and be willing to